Babylon felt like it was done a disservice by opening only a month or two after Margot Robbie's Amsterdam, a movie that everyone hated, deservedly so. That was a spectacular bomb. And Scott is doing the I liked it sign there, which is fine. Everyone can like what they like. And he's right. Okay. Well, see, this is the content you get on YouTube that you don't get on the podcast. So subscribe, links in the show notes. You get to see Scott actually say that he liked Amsterdam. But it was a movie that most audiences were perhaps wrong about, and they didn't like it. It was a spectacular bomb. And Babylon looked very similar in its marketing to Amsterdam. Stars screaming crazy things, running all over the place. Margot Robbie doing a Brooklyn accent. And we both think that this movie was DOA just based on the Amsterdam hate. And for other reasons, I think the marketing of this was pretty rough. It cried macho. You know, that is the term that Clayton and I use when a big movie like this opens in that $4 million range. It cried less than macho.
Mm-hmm.
And
it wishes it cried macho.
It wishes if only to cry macho is what Babylon says. So Scott, why did this happen? And was it always destined to be this much of a disaster? Okay.
I mean, you know, you could argue that a slightly, and again, how do you market this movie, which I kind of enjoyed it, and I don't think it's the kind of movie that necessarily deserves a ridiculously divisive reaction, but it's a 3-hour tone poem about the end of silent films and the rise of talkies. And it's basically a bunch of actors, some of them popular, some of them less well known, just basically gallivanting for 3 hours and getting into mischief. And there's not really a plot. It's something I tend to call a lazy river movie. Where you're just luxurious, you know, you're just relaxing in this particular world that you know, if you like it, then that's very good. And, you know, if they had brought in Leonardo DiCaprio, could this have been as successful as Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? Probably not, but it probably would have done better than what we got. You know, if they had cast Sandra Bullock instead of Margot Robbie, only because, all due respect, Sandra Bullock's the only actress right now that can pull in, you know, actually put butts in seats right now. You know, it might have done a little bit better, but, you know, not enough to make it a hit. I don't know how you market this film in a more conventional way. It's like I wasn't crazy about the trailers to The Fabelmans. They made it seem like it was a bit more treacly, if that's the word.
Yes,
schmaltzy than it really is. And it's not. I mean, it really isn't. But
it's weird. It's a weird movie.
Do you also marvel? Do you instead market it as this somber, contemplative, somewhat depressing movie about a child living through his parents' divorce? That won't get anyone in the seats either.
Right.
We were talking about the latest trailer for Babylon, even really centered Tobey Maguire in a way that he's not in the movie for a very long time. But we were joking about the fact that, I mean, he's a Spider-Man, and guess what? A year ago, you liked to see him in a Spider-Man. Maybe you like to see him as a yellow-toothed criminal. But that's the thing, is I really do think they had issues marketing this. And now, correct me if I'm wrong, this was a holdover from the last regime of Paramount. And then Brian Robbins still championed it. He wanted to, and I think probably for Oscar purposes, right? You want an Oscar nominees and winners if you can. But is this a black mark for him?
No, I'll be honest. Here's why. This film is only a little bit more commercial than Martin Scorsese's Silence. As a film that opened to crickets in late 2016. But in 2016, Paramount was beginning what would be a 6-year-long losing streak, basically. You know, if 2016 had come and gone and Star Trek Beyond had been a hit, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in the Shadows had been a hit, and Whiskey Tango Foxtrot had been a moderate hit, and Christmas Office Party had broken out, you know, except, you know, Ben-Hur maybe even made a couple bucks, then Silence would have been one of those, you know, for the love of the game, this is what Transformers pays for kind of movie. But because all those films were disasters, well, okay, and this one also flopped, but what the hell? Same thing with Mother the next year. If Transformers: The Last Night had been huge, then it would have been worth it to make 16 or 13 hours, The Secret Soldiers of Benghazi, or whatever that movie, the full title of that is. And I remember when Mother came out, Paramount, I think it was Jim Goplinopoulos at the time, it's like, I'm paraphrasing here, it's like, what the fuck? This is the kind of stuff you always say you want, and Netflix is cool because they release stuff like this, but when we put it out, whoa.
Right.
Obviously, that's heavily paraphrasing. But in 2022, Paramount pulled off the theatrical comeback of a generation.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
I've been writing their obituary in slow motion since 2016.
I mean, Studio of the Year easily.
Yeah.
Easily.
So I would argue, in the broad scheme of things, that Babylon being a financial disaster and probably not being a big Oscar contender, that stinks. But that's, it's like, okay, that's what Top Gun pays for.
Yes.
That's what Smile, the pure profit that is Smile goes toward.
Yes.
If you want to be a real movie studio, then the tent poles are called tent poles for a reason. They hold up everything else, and they, Batman Forever kicks ass. So it's okay whether Bridges of Madison County is a big hit or a moderate hit or a small earner.
That is a great way to look at it. And I hope Paramount does look at it that way, where Babylon lost money, but Johnny Knoxville kicked in a couple of bucks.
Yeah.
And Ghostface from Scream kicked in a couple of bucks.
Brought to you by Jackass Forever.
I would see that.
I would say get from the studio that brought you Jackass Forever, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Scream
That's
5.
another. That was a huge, Jesus.
And Top Gun Maverick.
And Top Gun Maverick. Get that in this trailer. Make that be 30% of the next trailer for Babylon, is just listing off their 2022 slate from the studio that brought you.
And I don't want to spoil anything but I think that actually saying that this is from the same studio as Jackass, there's a few scenes in this film that would not be out of place in a Jackass film. So if you wanted to cut a trailer to get the kids to see this, there's a few scenes available to do so.
I think you could get Johnny Knoxville into a green screen studio and have him introduce some of his favorite clips from Babylon. And that is your trailer. Just go for it this weekend. Scott, we've all seen this. It might be the way to advertise this movie.
Now, the good news is that
that elephant would make such a great addition to the Jackass cast.
They might even do it in Jackass 5.
Yeah. There's a Fatty Arbuckle-esque character in this movie that I think that guy would be such an addition to Jackass 5 ever.
I do think its financial failure is just, it's indicative of where we've been since 2016.
Yeah.
If not earlier, which is that movie stars don't put butts in seats, with a few exceptions: DiCaprio, Bullock, and to a certain extent, Dwayne Johnson when the budget's under 150. Thank you very much.
We'll get to him.
Gerard Butler when when you can get a $15 million weekend and pop champagne. He is a genuine B movie star, at least he was before COVID. And there are others that, again, part of the issue is that when Tom Cruise was kicking ass and taking names in the 80s, movies would cost $30 million.
Well, that's the thing. And also, Brad Pitt, I would say, is still clearly a movie star based on Bullet Train.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like you said, I don't know the movie star that makes this particular movie work.
Yeah, other than maybe DiCaprio by default.
Yeah,
I don't know. Do you cast DiCaprio and Sandra Bullock and age it up a little bit, and maybe that works? I don't know.